Hello, I'm Kaylee or Ildiko, and I make tiny glass birds and breed bugs. I'm going to be putting together a series on how to care for orchid mantises, also known as Hymenopus cronatus. Probably saying that wrong. In this series, I'm going to go over pretty much everything you need for caring for them, from babies to adults. When feeding nymphs, you're going to want to use something really small like fruit flies, and you'll typically feed them fruit flies until they're L4, L5, and then you can switch to something like house flies. You'll also just want a couple of tools to make this process go a lot smoother. I've found using things that are slippery really helps, so I use a metal funnel, and then I use a condiment squeeze bottle. I have a spritz bottle with distilled water in it. I have a little cup to put the corks in while I'm feeding, and of course I have the fly culture. So the first thing that I like to do when I get the nymphs out for feeding is I do a health check, which is basically just checking each of the containers, seeing the humidity level on the sphagnum moss, checking to see if anybody has shed and taking note of it if they do, and then just giving them a little spritz, whether that be enough water to rehydrate the sphagnum moss or to just give them a little water to drink. This is also where that tiny little cup comes into play, so as I'm doing the health checks, I will just be pulling the little feeding corks out of the containers and putting them in there, so when it is time to put the corks back in, they're all in one place, because oh my god, it is so frustrating when they roll away and you just can't find them and there's fruit flies going everywhere. It's just a mess. So after I get through all of the health checks, I will then move on to getting the flies out. And then that process is mostly just going to be like a lot of different bonking and banging the cups on things. This makes the flies fall down because the surfaces that they're trying to crawl on are all like food safe surfaces, which are, I don't know, they have some coating on them to make sure that food doesn't stick to them. And it really works for fruit flies. Once you have your condiment bottle of fruit flies, you're just gonna do exactly what you would expect and start squeezing them into the cups. I usually aim for getting about 10 flies or so in there when they're at this stage, which is L3. I might do fewer when they're younger, but it also is just kind of like however many come out. And then after that, you kind of just monitor over the next day or so to see how quickly they're eating through them and watching to see how thick they become. A fat booty mantis is a well-fed mantis, and a thin booty needs more food, so you just kind of keep an eye on that and then feed them as needed. This is by far the fastest way I've found to feed my mantises, although I'm sure there's other methods out there. I would just say with this, be sure when you're going to cork them up at the end that everybody is in their cage, because, I mean, as you probably saw, sometimes they like to come out. So just do like one over before you put them all away to ensure that everybody is where they belong and happily eating their flies. Be sure to check back in, as I'll be making videos on feeding the older mantises, taking care of the feeder insects, and making cages, and pretty much anything else that these guys could possibly need to thrive.